Thank you, Chair. Welcome, Mr. Blanchard. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's always interesting to meet a chief of staff, and I see that there are a lot of people in the room here today, and it's not for nothing. It's always interesting to get to meet the chief of staff as members of Parliament. Yesterday, I asked a question to Mr. Sabia regarding Bill C-15 for the budget that was tabled 2 days ago at the House. I mentioned the tax credits for small nuclear power plants. At page 91, there is a tax credit that existed 2 years ago, but it did not focus on nuclear power plants, but C-15 adds a tax credit for these small nuclear power plants. In C-15, there is also a new credit for clean energy, and that also includes nuclear power plants on page 120. In that area, there are 5 major players, and one of those is Westinghouse that belongs to Brookfield. In your tool, and I looked at this tool yesterday on page 3, it states to those that need to apply it to pay specific attention to Westinghouse, which belongs to Brookfield, correct? Now, was the Prime Minister a part of that decision? Did you apply the screen? You can understand that given the nature of discussions, yesterday the clerk of the Privy Council brought up 6 decisions that were made regarding the application of the screen since its implementation. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm asking you about C-15 regarding the tax credits that were added for nuclear power plants, because I do have other things to say on that. Perhaps I can ask my question in its entirety and you can answer? Yes. Well, if you don't want me to answer the way I was going to answer, then go ahead. You were talking about... Well, that's not what I'm talking about. He said to me that it was of general application. Because of that, the screen would not apply. When we look at your document, the definition of general application that's on page 5, it states that if the decision has to do with an indeterminate group of people or companies, the matter is of general application. But I don't think that 5 players is indeterminate. NuScale Power, Westinghouse, General Electric Hitachi, Atkins Rillick, and Technic at Home. On page 6, when we want to see whether or not it applies in a general manner, it's if it applies to a small group that is not a large category. And so that's a problem. Why did you not apply the screen? Mr. Sabia gave you the context. In his view, it was a general application and did not require the use of the screen. But I'm asking you the question today. I'm looking at your document. I don't need to repeat the question, I imagine. According to your document, you are not applying this ethics screen when you should have to that situation. I respect your interpretation. That's not your interpretation, that's your document. The process requires a lot of rigor, and for the application of this tool, you can see it. We look at the work that is done at the different departments. They carry out the analysis on the policies and the measures that could be subject to a decision. And then if a screen needs to be applied, we verify that by looking at the questionnaire. I understood that the people who did that analysis made a decision that the screen did not apply. Well, perhaps you were not able to comply with your document and you seem to have a lot of difficulty applying your own tool. Could you share with us the analysis that was carried out and which led to the situation in which it was decided that 5 players was of general application, that it was not a small category? And perhaps I can move on to another question. How much time do I have left, Chair? You have 35 seconds, Mr. Thériault. The Ethics Commissioner would like for us to extend the legislation to an apparent conflict of interest, and I would like to know if you agree with that. I don't have any position on that, and I believe that that's not what Mr. Sabia said. The Ethics Commissioner agrees. He's the one who proposes it. It's up to parliamentarians and up to the committee to do that, and I respect your work, and it will be up to you to decide. Thank you, Chair. 5 minutes? Mr. Blanchard. Given the Prime Minister trying to be objective regarding his past and his current position, well, in reviewing the legislation, we are trying to have different rules for the Prime Minister and ministers. For MPs, it's already done, and we want to do this in order to build people's trusts in their democratic institutions. Mr. Sabia agreed with that and has brought that up elsewhere in his career. I'm not trying to catch Mr. Carney in a trap. I want to look at the situation at hand. We haven't seen a clerk have to divest in order to protect his prime minister because he had to apply an ethics screen. I think we can agree on that. So that's important to state. I asked the question to Mr. Sabia yesterday, and I'm asking it to you today. Do you know what is held in the blind trust? No, I do not, because it is not part of the administration of what I have to do. My role is linked to the ethics screen and the companies listed in Annex A. That is what we are responsible for administering. What's in the ethics screen, and as I explained, as Nigel Wright also explained in his testimony, this is an area where the ethics commissioner can be informed of the content. So this is up to the ethics commissioner. So only the ethics commissioner is aware of the detailed content of the trust. Is that correct? I don't know what the content is. If I've understood, it's between the trustee and the ethics commissioner. And so you feel able to apply this screen. And that's possible. May I respond? I do believe that I can, and I am competent, because this is a measure that was implemented and chosen by the ethics commissioner to ensure that we could act preventatively to avoid any conflict of interest. That's why I feel comfortable applying this. And the commissioner is an agent of government. I didn't need that part of your answer. I wanted to go elsewhere with my question, and my time is running out. Mr. Sabia yesterday was saying that there is daily collaboration with the ethics commissioner. I asked him if there needed to be some accountability, and he said no, because he's in daily contact with the ethics commissioner. It seems quite complicated to manage the Prime Minister's affairs when you have to communicate on a daily basis with the ethics commissioner. Would it not have been simpler for Mr. Carney to divest, as Mr. Sabia did? It was his choice. But would it not have been simpler? Because this is a criteria that we will be examining. As the clerk of the Privy Council said to you yesterday, and as the Ethics Commissioner has said to you, you need to find a balance between attracting the best talent to politics and having ethical rules that follow the highest standards. Our ethical rules are among the best according to the OECD. And that's not nothing. Another thing that is worth mentioning, and as I mentioned in my opening remarks, Canadians elected Mr. Carney because of his background. That I understood in your opening remarks. I didn't want to ask you any questions on your opening remarks. Inaudible for the interpreter. Is it true that there is daily communication with the Ethics Commissioner? And if so, through whom? I imagine it's someone who works for the Office of the Ethics Commissioner. Should that person be a part of your team? A brief response, please. For PMO, it's not a daily basis for communication with the Office of the Ethics Commissioner. We communicate regularly. The time is up. The time is up. Apologies, Mr. Thériault and Mr. Blanchard.